A riser is something that sounds like this. We use them to tell you that something is coming, and you can hear them in all of your favorite radio tunes. This is Ben Lerner. Ben is one of the many very talented artists who I get to produce music for. Very often, we find ourselves arguing about the risers in our tracks, because he feels like they aren't needed. One time, I heard him mumble something along the lines of, "Risers aren't music," and that got me thinking, are risers music? Are risers just a plastic effect used to add fake excitement to some shiny pop song? Today, I hope to answer the question, are risers music? Now, in order to assess whether or not we can consider risers music or not, we have to ask ourselves, what makes something classifiable as music? The most easy and obvious place to start is by ruling in anything that has a pitch or a tone.
C, E, G.
Music is made up of melodies and chords, which are composed of notes, which are single pitches. Risers don't have a set pitch. So, are they considered music? Well, that leaves us with two very important questions. What about drums? What about drums and percussion? Drums and percussion are atonal elements that are used to create groove in a song. Typically, drums don't have a set pitch to them. Secondly, if chords and pitch are what makes something classifiable as music, what about something like this? That's a pitch. So you might say, okay, anything with chords, pitch, or rhythm is music. A riser is just an arbitrary bit of noise. It doesn't have any rhythm to it. However, would you consider this music? A wind chime player would be very unhappy to hear you say otherwise. A wind chime doesn't have a specific pitch or a specific rhythm. It's simply a sonic layer added to help tell the story of the song. Now, you might argue, the song can do just fine without the wind chime there, and you wouldn't be half as upset if your wind chimist canceled the gig than say if your drummer did. But here's the thing, your favorite song is still your favorite song even without the key elements that make it being there. For example, you wouldn't say that a cover of Jolene done on piano is not music or not a cover of Jolene because it doesn't have guitars in it, which are present in the original song. So implying that a riser isn't music because you could do the song without it doesn't mean anything at all. Now, I know I might be pushing it a bit far. I know that certain music is acoustic.
I ain't looking for a free ride on back to the middle. I need a new look.
Risers have an instant pop and EDM feel. The same way that I wouldn't use acoustic drums or a tin whistle in my EDM song, I might, you might choose not to use a riser in your acoustic song. But is that enough to say that a riser isn't music? A riser is there to create tension, the same way a drummer might slowly and rapidly increase velocity on a crash in order to create a swell.
So I started softly and just played a straight single stroke roll and then got the cymbal to go really, really loud and just hit it once when it was opened up.
My pop music doesn't include live acoustic drums. So the same way the kick and snare are programmed, why can't that swell be programmed as well? I've heard people say, well, the Beatles didn't use risers in their music. What they're insinuating is that a good song doesn't need any sort of digital help. And what I would say to them is that the Beatles mixes also sound like they were done on a laptop speaker underneath the ocean. You won't hear people saying that music produced in stereo isn't real because the Beatles didn't need it. The way I see it is the best way to decide whether or not you should use a riser is to listen to it, and if it sounds good, it's good. I think using your ears is a far better metric than asking yourself if the Beatles would have used it. Wind and string instruments do something called a crescendo.
Well, a crescendo, essentially, it's an Italian musical term, which means to grow gradually or quickly oftentimes in the musical volume.
It's basically where they swell volume and velocity to create tension. It's a sonic effect, yes, but it's also music. I feel like the way we look at risers is what gives them the bad rap. And so here and now, I decided to coin a new term. I think that the sound is music, and I'm calling it an atonal crescendo. Atonal means that there is no specific set pitch, and a crescendo refers to the articulation where you swell volume and velocity in an effort to create tension. I feel like saying that risers aren't music is such a pretentious thing, and now you have an equally as pretentious word to call it.
Well, I certainly don't think it's music.
So what do you think? Are risers music? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video.
In which we started a very low volume and moved gradually to a louder volume in order to imitate increasing intensity in a musical context.